Assalamu alaikum. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I'm a woman who lives in Cape Flats, or should I call Mitchell's Plain, Cape Town, at the southern tip of Africa. My age is around 40, and I have 3 daughters, and I live in my own townhouse. I firstly want to say thank you for the opportunity, for the program, Reverts to Islam, to share my story. My story is common, a typical story, I guess, for many women today living in Cape Town or even South Africa. I was around 25 or 26 years old. I was married for a good couple of years. I had 2 kids with my then husband. I turned out fairly well. I was running my own business. Myself and my then husband, we would help each other work-wise, etc., earning money, making sure we can provide for our kids, making sure we used to be a team. And what happened around 2005, 2006 was we discovered that our firstborn had been sexually molested by a family member. And the family member was related to, or it was from my husband's side, my then husband, my kid's father. It turned out to be a very sad time for me. So sad that I felt lost and alone, and I just found out that my daughter, then age 5, had been molested at that young age. Innocence was taken from her. We didn't have all the information at that time, and it would have cost us a fairly huge sum of money to get a child psychologist involved to see and to find out how our daughter had been hurt or innocence been taken from her. All I knew was my only place of comfort and my only place of relief was sitting on my musla and wanting answers from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we didn't know if what is happening, and it was really very stressful on our family. Like myself and their father, we felt we were in darkness, and he obviously went into denial, and me being the mother, I had to make sure that the house, we continue to run a household, we continue to pay debt, etc., and move on, and in the same time also finding out what happened to our daughter. Needless to say, the day came when we found out what had happened, and that was the day I completely died. The day when the district surgeon's report showed the scarring of my daughter and her inside, and from there it all went downhill. There was a particular day where, after feeling very down and out, I resorted to drugs. I resorted to um, a substance that um, I remember it was so stressful that my family ended up putting me in a mental institute. The stress of finding out that your daughter had been molested and me resorting to a different type of support or coping mechanism, uh, they just put me away. And I was extremely upset and I was extremely, you know, I couldn't understand why they're not hearing me in what happened to my daughter. Years later, I, for about 10 years, I think I was on abusing the substance and I was in so much darkness. And it all started from finding out that my daughter's been abused and nothing was done about the case. I had people telling me, you know what, let it go. And um, that also pushed me into complete darkness. I couldn't help my daughter and I couldn't help myself. My continuous drug abuse and continuous relapsing after many failed attempts of, wanting to come out of the hurt and the pain and the anger and the remorse and the regret of what happened to my child, and I couldn't help here in any way. Like I said, it was a very dark time for me. I would literally sit and cry that the Almighty just take me away from this earth, this dunya, this place that we call home. I had no hope for myself. I had absolutely no hope because all that led to me losing all my children. I fell pregnant during that time with the kid's father, and he ended up leaving me, and all my kids were taken away from me. And it was people that I loved and called family, but to them I was just a helpless drug addict. They would just no one wanted me around, and I was in a total state of depression. The 10 years that I have been an addict made me seek comfort and stability. And then I married another guy that also turned out to be a user. And it was with this marriage that I lost my third baby. My family took the baby off from me. And all these things was completely painful. At the end of the day, seeking for some comfort and stability from that marriage also led to a dead end road. I remember I was sitting in one of the roads and, sitting on the pavement, and I just felt completely broken, and I cried, and no one listened to me because everyone was going about their own doings, and that then led me to plea out to Almighty and to ask Him, what is happening. Every time I'm trying to come clean, and every time it fails, and why is this world kicking me out? And it just kicked me out, and it kicked me out every time, and I plead with my maker to help me, to come and help me. I finally got a bit of relief. Somehow, out of all the darkness, help came, and it was in the form of a rehab and all I knew was I had to come clean for the sake of my mother. I knew that I didn't want to hurt my mother also anymore. And that is when they put me in a 28-day program. Everyone of my family, even myself, was so reluctant that this was going to work, because for 10 years I've been trying to come clean, and for 10 years I just end up hurting everyone around me. Finally, the program worked, and I could I could become clean again. I could focus again, but my everyone around me was still walking on eggshells, thinking if this is really gonna work or not. Um, I basically died in my old life, and then I saw that the steps is finally working for me, and I went to a program called NA. I worked the steps with my sponsor, and I got to know about my higher power, the Almighty Allah. Things got so much better for me, and I started engaging with society, and I found a job, and around 3 or 4 years later, I was fortunate enough to study a few courses, and not long after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me a house. And after having lost everything over a period of 10 years, I finally had a place called home. And it was so amazing that Allah even let me move in right opposite a masjid. And all this for me was coping skills, coping mechanisms to make me come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I've then joined up with dhikr jamaas, lady dhikr jamaas. I've also joined up with masjid workshops, and is trying to live a balanced life, having my kids around me and having Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala around me constantly. I remember they diagnosed me with a disorder called bipolar, and I remember I had to go to clinic to get a lot of meds for this particular disorder, up until once again I remember going to a pharmacist, and he said to me, he just said it when I came there, he said, he can't see why we go on these particular drugs. It's just another drug to go on, and we must resort to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and which I did. I implemented my 5 daily salahs, and I implemented regular reciting and regular reading of the Quran, and that was my light and that was my guidance. And no matter where I went, even if I went to work and I felt very stressed out, I would just resort to my salah. And I realized that it is not the quantity of what you do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I realized it was the quality of when you call out to Allah, and it was the quality in how you connect with your maker. I realized that my heart is my domain. It's like my dome, and I keep steadfast in sharing what the Quran has inspired in me, and I try and keep it to so close, and I try and practice and keep it regular. I started getting involved with youth and making them understand and see that you can survive. and you can live a healthy, recovered life with consistent dhikr and with consistent connection to the masjid and to people that remind you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also open the doors for you from whatever darkness you are in. I've even, like, for now, I know I'm in a safe place, and I know that will never go back to, I won't say never, but going back to my old habits and my old ways, that I know is like a complete memory, and it's locked up safely. And with moving into my house and having all my children reunited with me, I got married again, and sad to say that marriage didn't also work out. And to all the women out there, I just want to say, whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens a door for you, and even if that door is not what you feel you want, or it turns out that it's not what you expected, then you must realize that there is a lesson in it for you. And I feel that we women must stick together, and we must encourage each other and not speak down with each other, even if you come through divorce, or even if you come through from a good background and you just find yourself in a complete rut. Then you must speak up, and you must find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's way, and come back to the path of Allah, and do your so that you can live a healthy life. In closing, I just want to say that if I could make it, then anyone out there that is struggling with substance abuse, as well as being in an abusive relationship, you can come out of it. You can find a healthy way of living, a healthy mindset of living. Just remember that Allah does not test us without giving us an answer that is suitable to us, or a lifestyle that is suitable to us. So I hope that my journey can be some of, like, really encouragement to a next female and youth out there. Just yaqeen and stay fast on the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shukran. Assalamu alaikum.
Sometimes we forget that he, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, was sent as a mercy for mankind, with the reminder of those prophets and messengers before him, that there is none worthy of worship besides Allah, and Muhammad is a slave and messenger. For the Prophet said, for one person to be guided through you is better than all that which the sun sets upon. So let's be a means of guidance for others. Person has been in hunger in this world, but will experience decadence in the year after. And how many a person has no home, but their palace has been built in wait for them. And what separates the boys from the men is not age nor wealth, but the willingness to stand for truth, no matter the few that stand with them. That truth will be taken forward by our Lord, the all-knowing, the all-wise. But the question is, will you be part of it?
ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين